Breaking news from an hour ago that we told you about. Former President Trump now suing Hillary Clinton and some others for allegedly conspiring to cripple his presidency and for accusations of collusion with hostile foreign country. The former president alleging a RICO-like scheme, in other words, kind of a racketeering scheme ahead of the 2016 election.
Yeah, let's bring in distinguished university professor at Touro College, Thane Rosenbaum, for more on this developing story. Thane, I was just trying to see here if anyone from the Clinton campaign has responded so far. Your thoughts on taking this, the complaint filed also in the Southern District of Florida?
Well, Southern District of Florida will be more favorable to the president. He lives in Florida. It's a more conservative state, right? And also, remember, he's suing Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she's right there. So he's bringing an action. Remember, this is the RICO statute, Heather. So that was brought initially for criminal purposes against the mafia. That's what its purpose was. And its purpose was so that you can go after the henchman and the crime boss, both. A conspiracy that they were all engaged to, involved in some kind of fraudulent RICO-related activity. Mail fraud, wire fraud, computer fraud. And the whole purpose, remember, in our legal system, you have to show a direct link between an act and a crime. And in this case, when you're dealing with RICO, you just go after everybody. It's the whole conspiracy. So basically, he's saying there's also a civil component to RICO. So an individual like the former president is bringing a civil suit and is treating Hillary Clinton as a mob boss. She's the top of the chain, and there's a whole bunch of other people below her. And the elements are that you have to show a RICO-related crime, mail fraud, computer fraud, wire fraud. You have to show a pattern and practice at least 2 events, and it has to be over at least a year. And you can't you have to be within 4 years, there's a statute of limitations, of when you discover the fraud. And so their fraud is saying, look, we have, go ahead, Bob, sorry.
No, I appreciate that. I just wanted to point out that Rudy Giuliani was noted for actually utilizing the RICO standards to bring down the mob. I don't know if he's involved with this effort, but it's quite possible that there were some conversations. But what I wanted to know is in a civil trial, it would be a little different standard, preponderance of evidence, I'm guessing, as opposed to beyond a reasonable doubt. And then how does that work? Would it still be a jury? Would it have to be unanimous? How would that work? And would this just be for money or what?
Yeah, so good question. The suit is for $72 million. But they can be, RICO permits trebling of damages, means you can triple it. You also get legal fees. So there's a lot of money here involved, for sure. Just to be clear, this is what the allegation is. This is the idea of the fraud, which is that Hillary Clinton's opposition research, which we know of as called the Steele dossier, was a false narrative to create a linkage between the Trump presidency, that campaign, and the Russian collusion. Evidence was falsified, that's what the complaint says, and it was used to not only lose the election, but to undermine his presidency for the whole 4 years. It never stopped. That's the complaint. It never stopped, and it was used to deceive law enforcement, right? The FBI, and that the Clinton team had access to data sources, privileged data sources. They hacked into the Trump Tower. Right, that's the allegation. Some of this we know, right? And this was all for the purposes of creating this story of the Trump's connection, the Trump team's connection to the Russia collusion. And so, you know, nowadays when people are more accepting of the fact that the Steele dossier wasn't just opposition research, but it was falsified opposition research, perhaps you're right, Bob. Rudy Giuliani said, hey, RICO, it's a fraud crime. It's a conspiracy. It involves the various elements of RICO. And yes, it's not easy to win as much as it is in a criminal case, as you pointed out, Bob, but it's still a serious lawsuit.
Well, still no response from the Clinton camp, and you know, she's recovering from COVID, so now just add to that. Thane Rosenbaum, thank you very much for joining us.
Anytime.